The animal you are trying to save does not see a hero approaching, and the difference between your perception and theirs could mean the difference between life and death. Every wild animal carries a threat assessment system that runs continuously in the background, processing information about speed of approach, direction, and eye contact. This calculation happens faster than thought, and the output is almost always the same: get away from the human. This response is not learned through individual experience, as research has confirmed that even species with no prior human contact display this elevated threat response, suggesting that fear of humans is encoded at a level deeper than personal experience and inherited through generations of evolutionary pressure. The fear is so deeply ingrained that it manifests across species that have never been hunted, never been harmed, and never even seen a human before, proving that this is not a learned behavior, but a biological inheritance passed down through countless generations. When we rescue a trapped animal, we assume the animal understands our good intentions, but the research suggests something entirely different is taking place. Scientists are still working to determine exactly what that something is, and the answer may challenge everything we think we know about the relationship between humans and the wild creatures we encounter. To understand why an animal might not recognize help, we must examine what being trapped does to the body. The moment a wild animal loses its ability to move, its physiology enters a state with no human equivalent. Cortisol saturates the bloodstream, and adrenaline climbs to levels that would prove lethal if sustained for more than a few minutes. Heart rate doubles, then doubles again. A study in the European Journal of Wildlife Research found that animals caught in fences or struck by vehicles experienced higher cortisol levels than animals injured by shooting, meaning the stress of certain trauma situations can exceed even the stress of being shot. The body burns through every reserve, doing what animals have done for longer than the species has existed, waiting to die or fighting until it cannot. From the outside, this state has a specific appearance. Pupils dilate, muscles lock rigid, and the body commits to a single outcome. Breathing becomes shallow and fast, and wildlife rehabilitators describe it as the animal going somewhere else internally, no longer attending to anything but the immediate threat. The animal's entire world has narrowed to a single point of focus, the source of danger, and everything else, including the possibility of help, has been filtered out completely. In this state, the animal is not thinking, it is reacting, and its reactions are driven by millions of years of evolutionary programming that has no category for a human who does not intend to kill. When a human approaches, the animal does not read the rescuer. It reads like the arrival of an apex predator at the worst possible moment. This explains why trapped animals thrash more violently the closer a rescuer gets, because the threat system interprets proximity as the final phase of a hunt. Every instinct honed over millions of years screams that this is the end, and the animal spends its last energy on the only response its evolutionary history has given it. Yet in some encounters, something shifts. The animal goes still, not from exhaustion, but from something more deliberate. Field researchers describe a transition where the rigid body softens fractionally, the frantic motion stops, and the animal orients toward the human, watching with focused observation rather than panic. This moment of stillness is the critical window where rescue becomes possible. In December 2005, a crab fisherman operating 18 miles off the coast of San Francisco discovered a female humpback whale tangled in commercial crab fishing ropes. The ropes were wrapped tightly around her mouth, her pectoral fins, and her tail, and 12 crab traps weighing 90 pounds each hung from her body, pulling her downward and making it difficult for her to keep her blowhole above the surface. She had been fighting for hours just to keep her blowhole above the surface, her massive body straining against the weight of the traps. A rescue team arrived within hours, and 4 divers entered the water carrying curved knives, fully aware that a single reflexive movement from the whale's massive tail could kill any of them instantly. The whale stopped moving the moment they entered the water and held its position at the surface for over an hour while the divers worked carefully around its body. At several points, she actively repositioned herself, rotating her massive frame, extending a fin, adjusting her angle in ways that gave the divers better access to the lines they were cutting. A 50-foot, 50-ton animal made a deliberate choice to hold still while strangers with knives worked across her body, trusting them in a way that defies everything we know about prey behavior. But the next case broke the pattern entirely. Researchers favor an explanation involving threat pattern recognition. A predator moves fast with aggression in a direct line, and that pattern is what a trapped animal's alarm system has been calibrated to detect across millions of years. A human trying to help moves differently, slowly, without sudden gestures, touching the trap instead of the animal. The animal's brain searches its threat library and finds no match. With no recognized pattern to respond to, the crisis response stalls. The animal waits, and that waiting creates a window for rescue. In Yellowstone, a research team encountered a wolf caught in a leg-hold trap. The wolf lunged at every approach, exactly what the biology predicts. But one researcher held sustained eye contact without looking away. Eye contact between predator and prey carries specific weight. A predator does not typically hold steady eye contact. It watches movement and calculates. Sustained eye contact without aggression is a signal outside the standard threat template, and some researchers believe it reads as social engagement rather than a hunt posture. The alarm system, searching for a predator pattern, encountered something it could not classify. After several minutes, the wolf stopped lunging, sat down, and held eye contact. When the team worked on the trap, the wolf watched their hands. When the trap was released, it stood still, looked at the researcher, and walked into the tree line. Researchers describe this as a suspension of threat response, the alarm system losing its anchor point when the expected predator sequence never arrives. The harder question is what happens after the trap opens. When the last rope was cut from the humpback off the Farallon Islands, she swam in circles around the divers, surfacing beside each one and nudging them with her jaw. James Mosquito, one of the divers, described it to the San Francisco Chronicle as feeling like gratitude. It felt to me like it was thanking us, knowing that it was free and that we had helped it. Scientists are careful with that word. Humpbacks do interact with divers in certain conditions, and behavior following extreme physiological stress is difficult to interpret cleanly. However, humpback whales possess spindle neurons, the same specialized brain cells found in humans, great apes, and elephants, which are associated with empathy and rapid social decision-making. These cells were long assumed to exist only in primates. In fact, whales evolved spindle neurons at least 7 million years before great apes did. Whether she used that architecture that afternoon is something the data cannot settle. Juvenile elephants pulled from mud pits in Kenya have been documented making physical contact with rescuers, trunk to hand or trunk to arm. An elephant's trunk is its primary sensory organ, containing more than 40,000 muscles and a density of nerve endings comparable to human fingertips. When an elephant extends its trunk deliberately, it is not casual, but a careful examination. Elephants mourn their dead, recognize themselves in mirrors, and carry social memories across decades. The cognitive equipment to distinguish between a human who caused harm and one who ended it is not something elephants lack. Elephants, like humans, great apes, and some cetaceans, possess von Economo neurons, or spindle cells, in the anterior cingulate, fronto-insular, and dorsolateral prefrontal cortex areas of the brain. Some researchers note that elephants in rescue situations stay close to their rescuers, for longer than any threat suspension explanation requires, with no biological reason to remain, simply present before moving away. There is something in that lingering that suggests more than mere confusion. What the data cannot reach is the inside of those encounters. What it is to be the wolf at the tree line watching the people who freed it. What the whale was doing when she moved from diver to diver. The pattern we keep finding is ourselves.